Welcome to my Friday weekly wrap-up where we look at news stories that were particularly relevant related to the housing market and impacting what we're seeing in the market today and likely into the future. So let's run through some of these, and I'll put a link in the notes below where I can. Front page of the Wall Street Journal today, bottom section, a reoccurring story, a familiar headline, home sales rocket to set a new 14-year high. And so that's not new news, but I think just kind of a continuation of what we've been seeing is just very high volume of sales, high prices, and volume not seen really since the last market peak, 2006 in many cases. And so that's a reoccurring story that we're likely to see for a while, but you really never know. The future's uncertain. So the market's strong today, we can say that. And so another great story, this is a story that is titled, It Takes a Village to Sell a Home, and it shows a couple walking down the street. And the basic upshot of the story is that with people spending so much more time at home, they're giving a lot more thought to not just the house they're in, but the neighborhood they're in. And so, when you walk down the street, is it friendly? Is it, not all neighborhoods are created equally when it comes to being social, for example. So are you a very private person? Maybe you're great living in a very private neighborhood. People are very quiet. On the other hand, if you're a very social person, you want to be around other social people. So you want to walk around and say hello and have a sense of community, and talking about how that's so much more important. And one of the tips it gave, and many agents had kind of weighed in on this, was that it's not appropriate, it's not legal to provide a lot of detailed demographic information about neighborhoods. There's a lot of laws around that. But what people will do, and I highly recommend it, is they'll get out and they'll walk neighborhoods that they like, or walk neighborhoods that they think that they would enjoy living in, take their dog out, take their kids out, go there over and over, say hello to the people, strike up conversations, and just get a feel if they like the neighborhood, the sense of community. Do they see what they're looking for? I mean, some neighborhoods, you got people hosting, neighborhood cocktail hours in their driveway, playing live music, and some you don't find so much of that. So kind of an interesting thought process and way of kicking off a search for that right property, that right home. So another great story, and many of you know I come from many years in the commercial real estate industry, a lot in office space. Another story about returning to the office, and really one of the big issues these days is employers are grappling with the sense that they may face liability related to the health of their employees. And so while I think a lot of companies, there's varying degrees of thought process on this, but a lot of companies like having their people come in every day. They like to see them working. More and more companies, really are more focused on productivity. They realize you can measure productivity and you can see it in other ways. You don't need to be physically there. But one of the issues kind of hindering the call to all office workers to come back to work is not necessarily safety. Probably is safety too, but is liability. And so that's a big issue that's going to be around for a long time for companies, how they deal with that. So that's going to lead to a lot of companies saying it's voluntary, quite frankly. Okay, so this was a really great article. The headline was, "For some, working from home means going abroad." And so this is a very interesting story to me, and you think about maybe younger people or empty nesters who don't have kids, or maybe the kind of roots where they can't move and they have jobs where they can work from home. The story talked about a young lady who lived in Paris, and she was so excited to take her Parisian salary and move to a more remote spot in Italy. And so that's a big trend on the move. Now here in Southern California, it's pretty expensive to move here. So some of the benefit of working remote is that maybe you can pick a spot that's not as expensive. So we wouldn't have that going for us here. But certainly it's a beautiful place to live. I mean, a typical Southern California day. A guy said to me earlier today, he goes, I wish the weather was like this every day. And the punchline there is, it kind of is like this every day. So anyway, I thought that was kind of an interesting story. So with all the news about companies leaving California, you hear it all the time, it's sometimes easy to forget that we just have some amazing industries here in California, and I'm here in Southern California, where really probably the two major industries that come to mind, and there's more, are technology and entertainment. And some might refer to it as techtainment, sort of the merging of technology and entertainment. So what you have with Hulu and Netflix and all the streaming services. And certainly you could add to that life sciences in San Diego is just huge. One of the top locations in the country for life sciences, and that's just a great sector. Our ports in LA, our port of Long Beach, the Inland Empire are some of the top logistical hubs and gateways to the country. So just a lot going for us. And so this article talked about Blackstone and their recent partnership with Worth to build a office building on the old campus where they filmed the Johnny Carson show up in Glendale. And so just underscores, I think, that the value of that entertainment ecosystem, the value of any industrial ecosystem, whether it be entertainment or tech or life science, it's really extraordinary. And so that in of itself is a magnet for intelligent companies and people, and I think bodes very well for California. We're in a world where technology is just growing by leaps and bounds, innovation, and I'd say there's no state in the country that can beat California in terms of having a lot of chips on that bet. And so that makes me very optimistic about the future. Another article kind of about the broader housing market, talking about corporate landlords buying extraordinary quantities of single-family homes. And so if it wasn't enough, the incredible demand from everyday people for housing, you got corporations building what they call synthetic institutional investments by pooling together thousands and probably in many cases tens of thousands of homes. Blackstone's another big player in that industry. They seem to be everywhere where your smart money is. But they're aggregating huge portfolios of homes. They're using technology to add incredible efficiencies as far as dealing with the tenants, repairs and maintenance, and they're adding that demand is adding a lot of non-traditional demand to the housing market, certainly crowding out buyers and driving up pricing and adding more stability to the housing market. It's very interesting to follow that. Okay, so another story, pandemic boosts housing prices. The top city in America, housing prices were up 27.3% year over year, but on average they're up 12% year over year. And that rings kind of true if you look at Southern California. And then the last article, and this one is near and dear to my heart. I have a mother-in-law that lives with us and parents I think about. And this is talking about, says, keeping it all in the family. And so what this story is about how homes, new homes primarily, are being redesigned for multi-generational housing needs. And so many of you know in California we passed some very interesting laws around accessory dwelling units known as ADUs. And so basically if you're allowed to build detached accessory housing on your residential property, despite what your HOA may say or what local zoning may have said in the past, California has passed laws to kind of buffer all that and pave the way for additional housing. And what this article talks about really is how public home builders now, Toll Brothers, Lennar, a big portion, 20% or more of their future home build is what they call this next generation or multi-generational configuration with lockout units and places for adult children, places for aging parents to live. And at the same time, the pandemic has kind of shown the fragility of the senior housing sector or the risks, and they've seen steady occupancy declines, not to mention it's super expensive, and it's kind of nice having your family nearby too, and so that's a pretty neat silver lining. So anyway, thank you again for listening. I'll put links to as many of the stories as I can down in the comments below, and feel free to reach out to me if I can help you in any way. Buy, sell, or invest in Southern California. That's my niche. I've been working here for almost 30 years in real estate, and I'm excited to have pivoted to the housing sector, and very excited to help you in any way.